Alright YouTube, today I want to show you how to double flare brake line. It's one of the most common DIY projects. If it's something you've been putting off or you want to hire it out, I want to show you that it's pretty easy. So let's get started. So what I'm using today is a double flaring tool set from OTC. This has actually been probably one of the better sets I've owned. You don't have to buy this particular one, but they work well. It's going to give you everything in SAE from 3/16 all the way up to a half. And if you want to pause that, you can see the directions that they give. So some of this will be a little bit different if you're underneath the car, but I'm not today. So if you have a bench vise, you want to clamp this in it. I want to start off by, I'm just going to cut a piece of line off here to show you what you're going to need to do. I realize that I'm not jumping right into flaring, but I just have a cheap tubing cutter from Amazon. You're going to rotate this, tighten it. You're going to keep going along right up until it goes through. Okay, the reason I wanted to show trimming the line with the tubing cutter, you're going to see you're left with kind of a bevel in there that's left over. You don't want that. Some tubing cutters come with a reamer and others don't. I have a milling attachment. You can use a pocket knife, a utility knife, whatever. The idea is to knock that edge off. You'll see there's two sides to your flaring tool. For a double flare, you do not want to use this side. You want this side here. It has a 45-degree bevel. You're going to clamp that in your vise. We're using 3/16 line today, so you want to line up with the appropriate size, all the way up to half. This is one of the parts that a lot of people get wrong. You'll see there's a ridge on your flaring die. This right here, from this distance there to here, is a measure for the length that your line should stick up through the flaring tool. If you get it too long, you're going to have a bad flare. Too short, you'll also have a bad flare. There we have our line sticking through at the appropriate length. I don't have an end flared on this side yet, but you always want to remember to put your tube nut in before you begin to flare. Now, they give you a tightening tool with your flaring kit, and you're just going to run these in. The end that sticks out here on your flaring die just slides right into your brake line. You always want your tool angled like that so that it doesn't flop around when you tighten it. This is one of the parts I see a lot of people make mistakes with, well, on both parts of it. I would recommend that you buy enough brake line that you can practice a few times if you've never done this before. So now we've done one half of the flaring process. This is the single flare stage. You can see there's just kind of a button sticking up. But we want that to have a 45-degree bevel. So that's where this part of the flaring tool comes in. You're just going to run this right into the center of your brake line. And I see a lot of people mess this up by over tightening on the second stage of the flare. That's the part that I said you'll get a feel for after you do it a few times. If you tighten it too much, you're going to crack your flare. So here's what it looks like at this stage. So there's what it looks like. There's a small indentation on my tube from the tool. That's not a problem. It's pretty typical. Actually, some of it I think is the galvanized or maybe aluminized coating coming off. Now we're going to drop our tube nut on, and I'll flare this other side. Just running the reamer in that hole. This is the stage you want to remember to put, you know, your tube nuts are going to go in opposite directions. So there we have another pretty decent flare. And you can see that there's no misalignment on the tube nut. When you spin, you know, my line's bent, but when you spin it around, the flare stays even. There's an even distance all the way around. Another suggestion would be, if you haven't flared line, buy some pre-flared line. Take a look at the flare. That way you know what a good one looks like. I want to throw in a bit of safety in this video too. I've seen way too many of these on vehicles going down the road. They've came into my shop, friends or family. This is a compression style fitting. The auto parts stores sell these by the brake section, but I'm pretty sure they're not DOT approved. And a lot of people are using this method to join brake line. And you know what happens is you'll slide this over, put your fitting. I'm not even going to show you how to install this because these are dangerous. They'll get you killed. What happens is when you apply your brakes suddenly, like you're going to have an accident or whatever, they will actually separate where you've made the connection on your brake line. So what you're going to want to use is a union. You can get those at just about any auto parts store. And like I said, this last part of the video is just sort of for safety's sake. You see, this is a different size union than my flare nuts. Nope. As you can see, we got a union on here. You're going to tighten that up pretty tight. And I'll tell you to have an assistant push on the brakes after you've done your repair to make sure that you don't have any leaks. If you do have leaks, you either need to tighten these up a little bit more or you have a bad flare. So there you have it. We successfully double flared some brake line. I hope that helps someone out. Thanks a lot.